Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Billy Hucks, your host, Point of Origin Podcast. I'm joined today by my co-host, Bobby Drake, and none other than the managing editor of Firefighter Nation, who has given us this opportunity to a couple of older guys jumping on here to have some conversation. Stephanie White. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, thanks, man. Good to see you.
Hey, gents.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. So this whole thing kind of kicked off at FDIC this past year, right? We were just kind of wandering around, and Stephanie needed a couple of guests
Victims
to jump on. Yeah, victims is what it turned out to be, right? To have a conversation about something that Bobby and I continued. In fact, it was the car ride coming back from FDIC that the conversation continued. So, Bobby, you want to kind of kick off how we ended up there?
Well, yeah, at first, I think it's crazy that we live 20 minutes apart, and April is the last time we saw each other. So, just saying that is a little weird. So
FDIC, right?
Yeah, it's
Welcome
kind of weird.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So, thank goodness for technology. Now I get to stare at you awkwardly on a screen instead of 20 minutes down the road. But no, man, I think you hit the point, right? Like, it was something that started on a whim, and it started organically and natural. And I think that's a lot of what we've talked about over the last couple months, trying to get this thing off the ground. Is that's exactly what we want Point of Origin Podcast to be, kind of the beginning where it all begins, keeping that grassroots foundational level, not talking over anybody's head, no target audience, really just in the middle, right? We're talking at chief level stuff. We're talking, aspiring firefighters. We don't know who's going to be listening to this thing. We hope somebody's going to listen, right? But we don't know who. And so I think that's important. Be us, but yeah, right. Absolutely. And, so I think we have to make sure that our message and our guests' message kind of hit both ends of that spectrum. And I think that's important because we don't want to lose anybody before they even get into the best job in the world. So I think that's where we are. It's that foundational level and bridging those gaps. Because let's be real, man, we're chiefs and we have to stay rooted in that middle, or we're going to lose respect at the bottom. We're going to lose respect at the top with our peers. So we've got to stay true to ourselves too.
I agree. I'm hoping that the boss being on this first episode agrees with everything you just said, but I didn't see her throw anything at the screen, so I think we're good.
Listen, I'm just here to break the ice because I know that recording your first episode, nobody likes the first episode they ever record. Looking back, I absolutely hated mine. Thank God. I think it accidentally somehow fell off the fire engineering platform, never to be found again. So we're good. Don't know how that happened, but that's what I'm here for. I'm just the comedic relief.
Awesome. Well, I think we can transition right into that. That conversation we had that day, that was something I think you probably had pre-planned out. We just, again, being victims, we weren't necessarily prepared for it. So it was definitely something that was truly off the cuff. How did you get to that point in your career where you recognize the situations that the fire service is dealing with today, especially when it comes down to leadership, maybe lack of leadership, maybe overzealous leadership? How did you get there?
Actually, it was not a pre-planned conversation. I realized that I had completely forgotten that I had to record a podcast at FDIC, and you guys were standing there with me when our producer, Mark, mentioned it, and knowing what I know about both of you guys, where you guys have been in your career, how long you've known each other, the places that you have ended up, which have been opposite of me because I'm still on the back step and then you guys are chiefs. I thought, oh, what a great conversation to have, because not only are we all three different ranks, we're all around the same age as well, but we're all in our positions dealing with various ages, essentially. I get a lot more young people because I'm at a busy house with probies. You guys are dealing with other chiefs often. So you guys, Bobby, you're kind of dealing with every age range. Billy, you're probably dealing more with people around your own age. So it was great because we had a various specter of both rank and ages. So grabbed you guys because I knew you guys were going to have all kinds of different viewpoints on it and really wanted to talk about the changes, right? Like we all came in, you guys released a clip the other day where we were talking about the suck it up buttercup mentality, and we all came in where it was okay to yell at somebody in recruit school, right? Scream in their face and all that. And then we kind of got to a point where it's like, oh, the science behind yelling at somebody isn't really great for learning fine motor skills that you have to remember to save a life. Maybe we change that up a little bit. We yell at them, after they've done the skill 10 times so they can at least learn in kind of a calmer culture before we put the stress on. We've seen things evolve, but now we're at a different place in the fire service, right? The pendulum swing, as I like to call it, of we've come a little too far of, all right, maybe we need to take a couple of things back a little bit, but then there are still some things that we haven't come far enough with yet. So that was the conversation we had at FDIC is, where have we gone too far with the new generation? Where do we need to go back? Where do we still need to go forward? And where's the responsibility on you guys as chiefs to stop, sit down, study the new generation, and learn their learning habits, learn their communication skills? Because it's one thing to say, well, they signed up for this job, so they should know what they're getting into. You get what you get. Is that going to make Bobby a great battalion chief when he just says, listen, you've got to relate to how I speak as your boss, or, oh, well, versus Bobby as battalion chief saying, okay, what are the characteristics of, what are we at, Gen Alpha now? What are the characteristics of the Gen A'ers, and how did they learn? How do they communicate? What can I learn and do to make sure that I have the best firefighters in this age group by being at their level? So that was the conversation. That's how Point of Origin came about for you guys, is you guys sat down and said, hey, we kind of need to be talking about this as the older people in the room, right? It's our responsibility to bridge that gap, to throw one of Bobby's recent articles out there. How do we bridge that gap? And that's where you guys are.
You just said several points, and when you talked about the pendulum swinging, so it's something Bobby and I've talked about numerous times in recent days. Funny enough, a couple of days ago, I was talking to a retired chief officer who's not in his 40s, but he's in that early 60s age range, and I'll let him guess if he watches this episode who I'm talking about. But he made the comment that when the pendulum swings in the fire service, it usually swings rapid and to one extreme or to the other. And it goes back to something that Bobby, you mentioned, and Bobby and I just talked about last week. We truly feel like we're in this unique position where, yes, we're chief officers. We started in the fire service, thanks for outing our age. We're all in our 40s, but we started at a time. We all started in the fire service in a time to where we may not have loved that old salty captain. I'm going to speak for myself here to say that I eventually started appreciating that salty captain to the point now to where I look back and I go, was that, you were disgruntled for your own reasons, but maybe you weren't so bad. The opposite side of that coin also shows us that, guess what? There is a new generation coming in. They do learn differently. They listen differently. They comprehend differently. And I think even as parents of children, I think our first reaction when somebody questions you, because I said so, or because it's always been that way, or just in the moment, this is what it's going to be. We really need to stop and look at these people and understand they do learn differently. They do process differently. Their priorities are not going to be our priorities. And that's okay. Again, Bobby and I have gone back and forth with taglines and all kinds of stuff. And, we'll probably have a bunch that we talk about, but a couple of chiefs in their 40s feeling like we're stuck in the middle of this generational gap. How do we bring both sides together? When you walk into a room at a conference and you see a segregated group over here and a segregated group over here, and you stand in the middle, they both wave at you, they're both speaking, and you're figuring out which direction, how do we pull them back in the middle? Bobby, you're the older one here too. Sorry, Steph, go ahead.
Hold on. No, I got a question for Bobby really quickly. Bobby, what's the youngest person in your battalion?
Not old enough to drink. I can assure you of that. We literally are we have people in the hiring process awaiting high school diplomas sometimes for July hires to be eligible to start recruit school, because they have to have that as a conditional job offer. And so they're literally waiting for their high school diploma to get printed and be official before they can get a job offer to start a July recruit school. I mean, 18 years old, high school diploma, GED. I mean, valid Virginia driver's license. I mean, that's really the bare minimum. So yeah, I mean, so certainly not old enough to drink, but I would be willing to bet that there's some 19-year-olds that are easily, if they're not in my battalion, they're in my department. That's for sure.
So, yeah, I went through the hiring process right out of high school, so I don't want to hear it. But now, so an 18-year-old, 19-year-old now was how old on September 11th?
Are you really asking me to do the math, or?
They weren't alive. They weren't around. And we were sitting, we had the FDIC advisory board meeting this past week, and we were talking about the 25th anniversary of 9/11. And part of the conversation around that was, holy crap, you guys, we're going to have an educational component, not just a memorial, but an educational component of what even was 9/11. Why is it such a big part of fire service culture? So how do we do some sort of immersion of bringing them to those moments and those feelings that all three people across the screen can remember vividly, and remember why it is that we do certain things in the fire service, right? Certain incident command things, but also when we use the word brotherhood so often and we get a little salty about how less cohesive shifts are now than when they used to be. We have this whole generation coming in that didn't understand how the fire service drew together in a very glued fashion. You didn't have to be FDNY. The fire service really drew in and became even more family-like for those couple of years afterwards. So, I mean, you've got kids in your battalion who, to them, it might just be, hey, I'm going to come to work and be a fireman and go home. And how do you teach that? Listen, this is going to be a long 20, 25, 30 years. You got to learn to make this your family if you're going to survive. How do you teach that?
Yeah, and let's bring it up, because this came up today at the gym in a conversation. I have a daughter who's a rising senior. Her entire middle school career was spent at home in virtual learning because of COVID. And so, you know, when we yes, 9/11, important piece, but now we have to also look at these 18, 19-year-olds that we're starting to hire spent their middle school age years isolated in their homes by themselves on a computer, and they are now getting ready to graduate. They're becoming freshmen in college. They're of that workforce age. And so we were talking about that today, just in development and how we're going to see that in the workplace start to pan out, that these folks were isolated for several years during really formidable social times of their lives. And now we're going to inherit them into a very socially compressed environment of a fire station. And it'd be really interesting to see what that looks like. Take all the generational pieces out of it. Like, these people have just never had interaction during those really important years. And the kindergartners starting this year are the first group that are starting school after COVID. So we're that far behind before we get a generation of young folks coming in that weren't affected by COVID. I mean, that's how long that's going to pay out. So we had that conversation today. So, I mean, talk about 9/11, but I mean, we can even bring it into more recent events with that is how it's going to affect us. And how do you teach that? And I think that we laugh. That's one of the things that you made a joke about it in Indianapolis, was that, you know, you brought us on for solutions and we didn't really have any. And I think that's the important piece, is that I don't know that there is a solution, because the same way we feel about the new generation learning, I can assure you the salty captains, when we were coming through, said the same thing about us, right? Like this is that revolving door. But I think the difference is, for us now as leaders in our organizations within the fire services, we are far more armed with resources, education, experiences, magazines, internet, research. I mean, there's tons of it out there. Like, I don't know what existed when I was 16 years old and joining as a volunteer from generational aspects. But it's our own fault now if we're not taking advantage of what's out there to be able to teach and learn from.
Not wrong.
Or Bobby, when you came in at 16, did they have gasoline engines?
Yeah, they were diesel, but yes.
Diesel. Okay, got it. No, you both make several really good points, and I'm going to take it back to Steph's. So I recall a time, obviously not 9/11. I was, 3 or 4 years in at that point. I remember the front doors of the station. We had people that were IT directors out in the world, knew nothing about the fire service, didn't come from family, that were willing to walk away from 6-figure-a-year jobs at that point because they wanted to join the fire service. And it goes back to her point that when people see how many years after that, 10, 15, maybe we squeak out 20 years from that, to where testing just in and around the Richmond, Virginia area, you could see the line out the door at the convention center just to sit down and take a written test to qualify for an interview. Fast forward to what you just mentioned. Now it's, do you have a high school diploma? Are you 18 years old? Cool. We can come in and we can teach you. I think taking that old salty captain generation that we talk about, transition into the 9/11 generation when all of those people came into the fire service. And now a lot of those are battalion chiefs, assistant deputy, fire chiefs across the country. And it ties right back into your point, Bobby, to where now we have a group and a generation that's coming out the door that just spent, 4 or 5 years being isolated. Hopefully maybe they had great interpersonal skills before. What did that time period in their life do to that? And now they're coming in. How are we going to bring us all together to be able to have those conversations? So again, I think there's an answer. I truly believe that leaders, chiefs, us, I'll speak for you too, Bobby, we overcomplicate things sometimes. And I think I mentioned at FDIC, I don't think there's a universal answer. And where I do not believe it's a universal answer, it's going to be many factors that play into it: cultural, generational, several different things there. That's where a good leader comes from. They do not try to overcomplicate the answer, but looking at the factors that surround them and their department. I can't look at Bobby where he's a chief at for the majority of things and go, oh, I can universally take those back to my agency and implement those, and it's going to work and it's going to fix things. I think it's important with podcast, with, having phone conversations, talking in the corner at a conference. Hey, what's the makeup of your department? What are your issues? How do we get there? So I think you both make really, really, really good points with this stuff.
To your point about, So Richmond, line around the block for people to get hired. Are we seeing that anymore? So
we're not. I mean, we're seeing applicants, but I don't know that we're seeing the quantity. And I think that most of us in metro areas, if they're on one list, they're probably on somebody else's list. And so, it's not that it's 300 people on each individual list. It's 300 people on
5 different lists.
And so
who's going to pick the cream of the crop first?
Well, sure. If you're top 10 of one list, let's be real, you're probably going to be top 10 of another list. And so it's really who hires first, where they really want to go. And so you're really pulling from the same pool. It doesn't matter how many people there are. It's really the same people in the entire metro going for it. So then I think back or think outside of the metro area, and I'm like, what are these smaller departments, these smaller areas that are more isolated and not surrounded by a metro? Like, how many applicants are they getting? If we're not seeing large numbers in a metro area, like, how hard is it for some of our smaller departments that our brothers and sisters are part of that are trying to find quality people that understand and get it and can figure it out? What struggles are they facing? Because it's completely different. It's apples and oranges, like you said.
I think one of the big problems that I've seen just with probies coming through is, I want to say it started before COVID, but don't quote me, but it's definitely been over the past 5 years, people trying on the fire service. So we all do the, hey, what made you want to join the fire department on their first day? And it's been unnerving how many people have said, oh, I just figured I'd try it for a couple years and then go do something else. So here's a challenge for you guys in the conversations you have. How do you take those people and still maximize their careers for those 5 years? Because I think so many of us, myself included, look at them and we're like, whatever, you're going to be gone in 5 years. That's 5 years of calls. That's 5 years of potential situations that can go sideways. That is 5 years of bad days, bad nights, good days, good nights. How do we take this new thing? Because it's not just us. Everywhere is saying it, just from complaints I've seen on the good old internet. How do we shift our mindset a little bit? Because I'm sure most people are like me, which is a little bit of the write-off. You only want to be here for 5 years. Fine. Have fun. I'll run calls with you, but we don't put the investment per se in those people. How do we shift those conversations to listen, whether it be 1 year, whether it be 10 years, whether it be 20, whether it be 30, you are here, you are in my station, you are in my bay, you are on my rig. How do I make sure that I put the most efficient time and resources and growth into you so that during those 5 years, I make sure that you're the best damn firefighter, EMT, paramedic, whatever you can be for all our sakes?
I will jump onto that because I'm guilty. I'm guilty, but I'm guilty for the opposite side. So what you just said, I think, is a solution, a big solution to the problem. However old and however long people walk in and say, hey, I'm only going to try this out for 3 or 4 years, they're going to pick up on your response. I don't care at what level, if you're in leadership or if you're on the back step. If they see you continue to pour into them, if they see you continue to try to foster, try to develop them into something, I think that's the most important part. And where I was guilty when I first started with my agency, because of how we were set up, we were typically only hiring people that retired from other agencies. And they were coming in on the backside of their career, with a different pension system. They needed 5 years to get vested. And I became habitual in my thought process by looking at them going, oh, great. They're only going to be here for 5 years. I'm not going to pour into it. It took a couple of years of me thinking like that until I finally said one day, wait a minute. I've got somebody that's coming in with 25 years, maybe 30 years with another department doing the same job. The way we always do it is not always the right way. Maybe they have some ideas. And I will tell you, as I got to, we'll just call it a middle management level, and I started overseeing some folks in parts of the state, it was my goal. I know you're going to be here for 5 years. What can I do as your boss to make your job a little bit easier, maybe to make it a little more enticing for you to stay for 8? Maybe I can eke out 10. Those people had so much to give. Now, again, on the flip side of the coin, you're talking about somebody that comes in, Bobby mentioned earlier, I don't know what I don't know. I do know that me as a person, as a human being, if I walk into a place and I don't feel welcome and it's just made to be a part of a job, we talk about the brotherhood all the time. Is that brotherhood? Do you look at a sibling and go, you might not be here in 5 years and move past it? I hope not. Same for the fire service, period. We need to walk in and invest in people, whether we know and whether they prove us right that they spent 3 years and pieced out and moved on. Okay, fine. You're staying on the job, and you yourself knows that you gave everything that you could give. You will not live with remorse later into your career to go, you know what? Maybe John over there had a chance, but I didn't put enough into that person. And again, I think it's important from the top of the leadership spectrum to the bottom, farthest back step rookie firefighter. There's an opportunity for everybody to pour in what they do know and give people an opportunity.
I'm going to take it a step further. Is that if we care so much about this job and we love this job so much, why aren't we trying to set an example for them to want to be there longer? Because they probably don't know, like we said, what they don't know. They haven't had that experience. Let's be real. The pathway to the fire service for years was volunteerism. We've seen a steady decline there, like right, wrong, or indifferent. There's a steady decline. So more and more people are being hired in fire departments without any experience. So if they don't know who we are, they don't know what we do, and we don't treat them right, and we don't take care of them, we don't show them how much fun it is and how it's okay to laugh and it's okay to do the things that make us firefighters, they're not going to stay. So who cares how long they're there? Treat them right, show them what it means to be a firefighter, and maybe the light bulb will go off and they'll want to be there longer, whether that was their original intention or not. And I think we've gotten away from that. I think some folks, some departments, some people, they're more worried about their own development instead of passing it on to somebody else and lighting that passion in somebody else that somebody put in them. And I just think that's how we capture that 5 years, and that's how we build on that 5 years. Is if you make it a great environment, you make it fun, you make it a happy place to work. We all know it's the best job in the world. Why are we not showing them that? Then maybe we'll get 20 years out of them. But that's my simplistic twist on it.
No, I think, again, I agree 100% with what you just said. And it's interesting, going back to a point Steph made a few minutes ago. When you look across the board, I don't care what volunteer department it is right now, that used to be the testing phase, right? I used to kind of step in, walk in to say, hey, maybe I do like this. And we had those people in the volunteer fire service that loved it, went and got hired somewhere and never looked back. But volunteerism is essentially done. We're competing with so much stuff in the world that part's not there. So you truly have to look at the career departments, no matter how big or small they are, and understand that those individuals coming in, that's their time that a lot of us, actually all three of us, we got started as volunteers. Mentioning the old salty captain, there was a guy that Bobby and I realized recently that we were talking about Bobby's days of, early in his career and not getting promoted, not getting hired where he wanted to get hired. And I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you talk about it, but I'm sure that old retired guy, Rick Talley, now is going to probably be one of our biggest cheerleaders watching this episode. And it was kind of crazy to realize that, not knowing Bobby that many years ago, but someone who retired as an assistant chief for my department. He was a battalion chief when I first started. I remember getting pulled aside one day, and I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but he had a way, we'll just say Rick had his way of setting you down in a corner and going, hey, you're an idiot. Stop being an idiot. And here's how to fix yourself. And you could either take offense to it. He was going to tell you, but if you stopped to realize and paid attention, if he saw something in you, he was going to pull you in that corner and sit down and have a conversation. If he walked into a room and you saw somebody being a bigger idiot than you and he didn't speak to them, some time would tell that he saw something. And again, I never understood it. That guy today is still working, we'll call it. He's retired off the job, but he kicked off this flying squad, Metro Squad in Richmond, which has been a highly successful program for numerous career departments. But Bobby, I think your experience was a little bit the same with Rick, right, after an interview panel?
Yeah. So I, like we talked about the other day, I wasn't always the guy I am now. I was a disgruntled, angry, toxic employee that no one wanted to be around, and that wasn't who I was by personality, but that it's who I became. It's who people knew me as. And I think it was 3 promotional processes I went through, and I was in the top 5 all 3 times. And all 3 times I didn't get promoted. And the way our list worked is anybody in the top 5 was promotable at will. And as they promoted people out of the top 5, number 6, 7, 8, whatever would move into the top 5. Several times I was the only one still in the top 5, and they had promoted number 6, number 7, number 8. And it just fueled my fire. And then I had said I wasn't going to do it again. Something said, go for it one more time. And so I did, and went through the whole thing. Lo and behold, top 5, came around. And I was in it, and I didn't get promoted right off the bat. And I happened to be walking through the grocery store, and this guy walks up and he goes, "Hey man, you're wearing a blue shirt. You didn't get promoted?" And I was like, first off, who is this guy? Like, I don't know you. Like, I didn't remember him. I had no idea who he was. And he's like, "Look, man," he's like, "I was on your interview panel. I was one of the outside chief officers." He was like, "There's something else about you that's keeping you from getting promoted. It's not how you performed in that moment." He's like, hand me his business card. He's like, "Why don't you give me a call?" He's like, I'd like to explore this with you. Come to find out, it's Rick Talley, as we just talked about. So this guy had no vested interest in me, but he saw myself in him, or him and myself, when we started talking. And he too volunteered for many years, got hired, was not getting promoted, felt entitled, felt, that he should already be where he wanted to be because he had volunteered. And that was me. That was exactly who I was. Different than him, I got hired with the department that I volunteered in. So we were all volunteer. We switched to combination. I got hired into a combination side of the department where I volunteered. It's a very, very unique, situation. And there's plenty of other people out there that have done it. But he vested in me. He got to listening to my story, and he was like, "Man," he was like, "You're me in a nutshell." And we started peeling back some onion layers, and lo and behold, I got promoted. But it was that self-reflection that he forced upon me as a mentor, to realize that I was the problem, not the victim. And I had to stop playing that card. And so I get it, right? Like I root for the underdog. I feel for the folks that get skipped over in processes. They're the first ones that I call, not normally the people that got promoted. I mean, no offense if I called you second to congratulate you. I probably called the guy or gal that didn't get promoted first, because I know what that feels like. And I think that's mentorship, right? Like that's he and I have actually taught a class called the mentor and the mentee, a view from both sides. And we talk about the roles and responsibilities of that relationship. And that's really what it became. I mean, there was a level of responsibility in me that he expected. And he flat out told me, he said, "If you stop living up to your end of the deal, I stop showing up and coming to meetings and calling you and talking you through things." So there was a two-way street there, but yeah, no, I owe all of that to Rick. And then, we still communicate. When I went for captain, same thing. I mean, I called him. We worked together weekly leading up to that process. When I went for my battalion process, the exact same thing. I mean, this guy has been there with me the whole way. And I think that's important, is that we have to seek out good people. And sometimes good people seek us out, and we have to be humble enough to not reject them and to let those people into our circles, because you just never know who holds the key to your success. And he did. I mean, he was a guy I'd never met a day in my life, and he had the key to my success. No one in my department did. Nobody in my department was able to unlock that. And I'm not saying it's bad people in my department. They're certainly not. They're great people. They are why I am where I am now. But somebody else had to unlock that lock for me, and that was Rick. And so I stress to everybody to, when somebody wants to take you under their wing, like you should probably listen, because there's a reason why they're doing it, especially if they don't have a vested interest in you.
Yeah. I think the most important part out of all of this is, as Steph mentioned, she spent 23 years on the back step, not getting promoted because just not her thing. She's where she wanted to be. Is this process the same, Steph? Being on the back step, being the senior man, is this process the same, or are we just a couple of chiefs looking at it the wrong way?
The process of finding mentors, or do you mean the process of stepping up and always being the mentor?
Stepping up and being the mentor is the direction I was going with it.
Okay. Just making sure before I went off on a tirade. Listen, it's hard, because I think we all at a certain point suffer from a certain level of imposter syndrome of, well, what do I have to teach that really means anything? And I think we all forget just how little you actually know when you come in about life. You can come in and be the all-star who does everything really well, hands-on, learned everything in the book, but in terms of putting life all together in a firehouse and on the fire ground, or on that EMS call, you don't know it all. And I think we forget that when we watch people perform. They're doing fine, they're doing good, they're not screwing up on calls. That can't be the benchmark for stepping up to be the mentor. It really has to be, what are the silent pitfalls that we've all fallen into in our career that nobody warned us about? Loss, heartache, divorce, custody battles, financial issues, whatever it be. I think that's where realizing, if a person comes into my firehouse, what are the things I need to be looking for that aren't just the calls, that aren't just how are they doing around the kitchen table, those different things, kind of slowly infusing in that mentor level. Hey, by the way, this is probably going to happen to you at some point in life. Be prepared. Here's some numbers you can call, or you can call me, whatever. In terms of stepping up to be the mentor, we need to stop looking at it as, hey, kid, let's go work on forcible entry. All right, they're great with it. They're good. No, it's so much more than that. And I think that's something that we've really lost the art of for a while. We really went, this middle generation really went hardcore with skills only, skills only, skills only. And I feel like the generation when I came in, there were some solid people who looked at me and said, dear God, we have a 19-year-old female coming into the fire department. There are some things we're going to have to prep her for that as a human being, she's going to go through. And they did a really, really great job of that. And I feel like my generation forgot to do that a lot with some of the new people that came in the middle of our careers. So now that we're at the end, long-winded answer is always be the mentor. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it be are they struggling with hands-on skills? Are they struggling at the kitchen table to make friends? Do they look fine on the surface? Guess what? Just like ducks, those little feet might be paddling to survive underneath. You don't know that they don't go out into the parking lot, get in their truck and break down crying because of whatever they're going through at home. Mentorship is for life. Mentorship starts when they walk through the door, and it doesn't matter who you are on the crew. You have something to give. So don't sit back and not be hands-on with somebody just because they look like they're doing great on the calls.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in right there because we've talked about it, right? That's that developing the whole firefighter, right? Like we when we talk about training programs, we talked about this in Indianapolis, right? When we talk about training programs, we get so focused on these curriculums, and that objective 1 is this, objective 2 is this, but those curriculums don't build in exactly what you were talking about, and that's those interpersonal skills. There is no firefighter 1, firefighter 2, firefighter whatever you use curriculum that talks about interpersonal skills in it, right? So as mentors, as training officers, as leaders, as chiefs, like that's what we have to make sure we're doing for our people is building programs around our people that focus on the whole firefighter and not just, like you said, their practical skills. There's more to this job than that. And I know I'll get chastised for that. I will get hate mail for saying there's more to this job than just those tactical skills, but there is 100% more to that. And we have to focus on that and develop those skills as well.
No, everything that I just heard both of you say, it gets back to the simple term human. We're all human. We're not robots. The job, though treated that way sometimes, policy, procedure, structure, SOP, you're humans. Steph alluded to it. You're coming with a whole different set of problems from home, especially early in your career where you're still trying to have your family adjust to 24 hours of physically not being present. Oh, and then you come home the next morning and you were up all night and you were exhausted. So I haven't seen you for 24 hours. Now you're going to lay down and sleep for 6. The kids still need to be fed. The clothes need to be washed. The groceries need to be bought. It's something truly, I believe, that needs to be added into curriculum everywhere. is the inclusion of family, whether you're married or not, parents, brothers, sisters. Hey, listen, we need to support you in your job. It's for it to be successful, it truly needs to be that way. But well, with that being said, we've been recording for 40 minutes. Listen, if you're seeing this episode, it means that we passed the interview process, the first go around with the boss. So I will feel comfortable to go ahead and telling you that, listen, Bobby and I are super excited for this venture. We're going to be covering topics, everything from NFPA to leadership, training. Bobby's background, as a training officer, my background as a fire marshal. We're not going to bore you with all the nerd code talk all the time, but we're definitely going to have some good guests on that we can relate how actually we all are tied together as one fire service. So thank you guys. Stephanie, thank you for giving us this opportunity. Hopefully, sure. We'll see this thing published sometime here on the internet. And if it's not, then no one will know. So
the bottle of bourbon that, I expected to be sent my way hasn't gotten to the door yet, but
Yeah, no, it's on the way.
I'll settle for a pizza. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Fair pizza enough. It's easier and cheaper. I like it. Yes. All right. Well, again, thank you guys for coming out on a Saturday and having this conversation. Again, we look forward to the future. We look forward to having some good conversations with folks. Billy at pointoforiginpodcast.com, Bobby, pointoforiginpodcast.com. Shoot us an email if you have episode ideas. If you have some topics you may want us to be the guinea pigs to test before you go out onto social media and make a post about it. Let us know. There's a chance we'll be your imperfect human to do that for you. So thanks again, guys, and we look forward to the future.
Thanks, guys.
Same. See you.
See you guys.